Everything was taken from me.
I claim this city for the glory of Rome.
I will have my vengeance.
Rage is your gift. But whose head could satisfy this fury?
The general will do.
Gladiator?
The odds are against you. The odds are always against me. Rated R.
So welcome to Trimming the Movie Fat, the podcast where we trim films from franchises that don't belong. I'm Stephen Nicholson, and thank you for joining me again as I embark on a spoiler-heavy critique of the just-released Gladiator II. Joining me again on the warboat to Numidia is my friend Paul.
I remember that day. I never forgot it. That a slave could take revenge against an emperor.
Where were you born?
I don't know. I never knew a mother nor a father.
You will be my instrument.
Who are you?
Did you hear that crowd? The greatest temple Rome ever built. The Colosseum. Because this is what they believe in. Power.
General Acacius, there are victories yet still to come.
Rome has so many subjects, she must feed them.
They can eat war!
The arena turns slaves into gladiators, the gladiators into free men.
You have something in you. I knew it from the start.
Did you now?
Rage. And rage is your gift.
This is about survival! Survive! Hold together, and when it charges, break for the wall.
Whose head could I give you that would satisfy this fury?
The entire Roman armies.
Too much?
The general will do.
Rome must fall. I need only give it a push.
We make it out alive. Alright. Hands on the mausoleum floor. Blood stains the Colosseum doors.
This ring belonged to Maximus. Now I give it to you. What is the dream of Rome?
Blood stains.
That people are not free.
I was owned. Now I will control an empire.
I will not waste another generation of young men for their vanity.
Strength and honor. This our Rome treats its heroes.
Hands on the mausoleum floor. Blood stains the Colosseum doors. The gods have spoken!
If you were to Google Gladiator II reviews right now, the main thing that would be coming up is Denzel Washington Oscar buzz.
I think it's a testament to how good the cast is. Pedro, he delivers. Those nutty twins are brilliant. Paul, I could only imagine, and I'm sure you're talking to him, the pressure he must have felt, coming in. But he delivers. Ridley is a genius at casting. He's a genius. He's a genius. And as I've said earlier today, and thank you for what you said about me, but as I said, I'll go anywhere he asks me to go.
Pedro Pascal's good, but Denzel Washington steals every single scene as this kind of wily slave turned noble tradesman who's got designs on power. And,
look at my rug.
Look at my drapes, and Ridley Scott saying that thing about, well, a billionaire who wants to take over the throne of Rome. Is that familiar? But let's not talk about politics. Well, the thing is, yes, but this character is much more interesting than any of the characters in contemporary politics. It's fantastic the way that he carries that role. And if it weren't for him, I think the film would have a really big problem in completely engaging you.
So Gladiator II was released in 2024 and directed by Ridley Scott. So years after witnessing the death of Maximus at the hands of his uncle, Lucius must enter the Colosseum after the powerful emperors of Rome conquer his home. With rage in his heart and the future of the empire at stake, he looks to the past to find the strength and honour needed to return the glory of Rome to its people. So the gross for the movie, well, Paul, it's just out. It came out in a lot of territories last weekend, including the UK. So at this point, it has grossed $87 million worldwide. But yeah, it's still to be fully rolled out, including the likes of North America. The budget, it's a big one. It is estimated at between 310 million, which is a big chunk of change. Now, ratings-wise, at this moment in time, it has a Rotten Tomatoes, a 75% fresh Rotten Tomatoes score. There is not, at this moment in time, a Rotten Tomatoes audience score because the movie is not out in America till tomorrow, so it's not available. On IMDb, it has a 7 out of 10 audience rating and a 64 out of 100 critic Metascore. And here's a fact for you, which I only found out yesterday. Harry Keegan was originally cast as Emperor Geta, but had to drop out due to scheduling conflicts, which is a bit of a shame because he would have been absolutely fantastic. And here's a mistake in the movie. In Rome, the god of the sea was Neptune, but in the movie, he's referred to as Poseidon. And in summary, echoing its predecessor while upping the blood-sporting camp, Gladiator II is an action extravaganza that derives much of its strength and honour from Denzel Washington's scene-stealing performance. So, Paul, Gladiators ready?
Ready.
Last week we discussed the original Gladiator movie, starring Russell Crowe. So yeah, let's see if this new one stacks up in our eyes. So yeah, presumably you went to see the movie at the weekend, yeah?
I saw it on Monday.
All right.
Yeah.
Where did you see it?
It's the View.
So you've seen it on Monday? Yeah, I seen it on late Saturday afternoon there. And yeah, what are your first impressions of it? And did it live up to the legacy of the first movie?
I'm afraid not, no. I read some mixed reviews the week before. Well, some said it was brilliant, others said it was rubbish. I'm afraid I'm more the latter than the former. I thought it was disappointing. I wasn't quite sure it was necessary when I heard it was being filmed. I thought, how are they going to continue that kind of story? Was it going to be a new story? Or is it going to be some kind of a flashback like you have with like the Godfather Part 2 and things like that? Or the Bourne films. Instead, it was just, for me, it was a bad cover version of Gladiator. It was the same basic story, fights in the Colosseum mixed in with a bit of politics and things like that. But I just thought it was an unnecessary rehash of Gladiator, and it wasn't going to live up to that standard. So I think it should have been a completely different story. But I just thought, yeah, it was some bad characters, same story. Yeah, the opening battle, the amphibious assault, that was well done, really well done. But I thought the Colosseum battles were just ridiculous. I mean, you've got monkeys from outer space, the Planet of the Apes, and then sharks. It's just ludicrous. I don't think Paul Mescal was any good as a gladiator, just a bit too, wasn't as masculine as Russell Crowe. I just felt he was nothing, and all of a sudden he turned into this fighting machine. Whereas with Russell Crowe, you could tell he was ready for a fight anytime. Now, Denzel Washington, okay, he was probably the best, but pretty low bar, to be quite honest.
Macronus is an ex-slave who did quite well, taking and intimidating.
He's a billionaire, and instead of having a stable of racehorses, he's got a stable of gladiators.
Violence is the universal language.
He takes advantage of every situation.
You will be my instrument.
And and those two emperors, the least said about them, the better. You know, just imagine putting two of these guys in charge of one of the biggest empires in the world.
Emperor Gaeta is a sadistic, ruthless emperor. He rules Rome alongside his fraternal twin, Emperor Caracalla.
Because we're split as emperors, it enables for us to be more broken.
They're motivated by fear of losing power. The Praetorians will put down this crowd like they have every other.
I was just pouncing around, and you know, it was just I was disappointed, I have to say.
I could never tell, Paul.
Yeah, it was just from the title sequence onwards, I just thought it was a bit of a letdown. For the whole film, I was like, so what? Seen it in Gladiator, better. Acting was better in Gladiator. Same story, but done better in Gladiator. Yeah.
What were your expectations for this? You know, going into, were you excited, or were you more kind of apprehensive about how the story would continue?
I was more curious to see what was going to happen. I wasn't expecting much when I saw that the story was basically the same as Gladiator, which I thought was disappointing from the start. And yeah, I was not surprised by the outcome. I just felt it was unnecessary. And here, there's an interview with Ridley Scott in the Times last week, and he's talking about Gladiator III.
Mm-hmm.
So, God knows what will happen with that one. And I do think the money would have been better spent turning Napoleon into a trilogy rather than Gladiator, because at least with Napoleon you've got a huge story to tell, whereas with Gladiator it's just the same again, except with monkeys on steroids.
Yeah, I mean, I was a bit disheartened, I have to say, when I seen that they were having discussions about Gladiator 3. I mean, yeah, I'd be very surprised if they got my money for that one. I mean, I think when this was announced and they were making it, initially you think, oh, okay, I love the first movie. Let's see what they do. And see, as it was getting nearer to release, and I've seen the trailer and such like, I was like, this just seems to be playing the same tune as before. Is it going to be one of those unnecessary sequels where it's literally just, you know, the Emperor's New Clothes? You just redress it and have the same people, have new people doing the same thing. And unfortunately, that's the way it turned out. And I will say, I went to see it with Alison, my wife. She really enjoyed it. So to kind of balance things out, I thought it was okay. I agree with you on the first 2/3 of the film, that it is very much, you know, almost beat for beat the same story, in that you've got your main hero who suffers who goes into battle at the beginning. Although it is quite interesting, it's flipped this time, isn't it? Because we're kind of on the side of the people being invaded, as opposed to being on the side of the persons invading. So that was a nice little juxtaposition. But essentially, we've got an opening battle. We have the hero losing people that he loves and vowing revenge, and then goes on this journey where his main purpose is to enact revenge on the person he sees as the person that killed his loved one, his wife. That's his motivation. And along the way, he gets off into this other side plot about bringing Rome its freedom again. And it's, you know, and in the meantime, he's a gladiator fighting his way through the ranks. It is the first movie.
Strength and honor!
And it only really, for me, got interesting, and I did enjoy the last act, where Lucius has the showdown with, God, forgetting his name, Pedro Pascal's character in the movie, who I thought was very good, by the way. And they have their duel, and from then on in, for me, it got good because it went off in a different direction from there. And I thought, oh, how's this going to end? So yeah, for the first 2/3, it's a cover version and it's not as good. The final act, yeah, I did enjoy that. But yeah, you've mentioned already, you don't think Paul Mescal is up to the task as Lucius, a pales in comparison to Russell Crowe's Maximus, yeah?
Definitely. I don't think he has, you know, the sort of toughness that Russell Crowe has. I suppose you could say masculinity that Maximus had.
Yeah.
You know, it was just He just looked like a normal guy, acted like a normal guy. He didn't really seem like somebody who could lead an army into battle. That's the thing. And he was just, I don't think he had the voice for it either, because I think he tried the old English accent, but the Irish kept slipping in occasionally. And he should have just stuck to being Irish, I think. Because if you can't do the accent, just do your own one. It didn't do Sean Connery any harm.
Well, yeah.
And I think he just wasn't the right actor for that part, I thought. It was a shame. I think if it had been a different type of story, which it should have been, rather than just a rehash, if he'd been on some kind of journey or some kind of war was going on or whatever, then yeah, he might have been able to pull it off. But I thought, if you're going to reprise the Gladiator film, the first one, he had the same kind of personality and traits as the original character to carry it off. And I don't think Mescal had that. I think he was just ordinary.
Yeah, I agree. He's an excellent actor, but as a direct comparison, which we're going to do because it is a sequel, you watch Gladiator and I want to be Maximus. He's the man. You watch this and Lucius, and you're going, nah, I don't want to be him. And he done that speech at the beginning at the castle before it gets attacked. To G up the obviously the defenders of the castle, and I'm like, I would even follow you to the toilet, I mean, it just doesn't have that dynamism,
yeah,
that the charisma, the authority. It's just not there.
Rome has taken everything from me, but I will have my vengeance.
And obviously the film includes some big names. Yeah, you're Pedro Pascal, Denzel Washington. You've mentioned Denzel Washington already, but how do you think the performances of the newer characters introduced, played by some of the main names, how do they maybe help establish a new dynamic within this movie?
I didn't think Pedro Pascal was that good. I got the impression he was, he probably didn't like the script all that much. He was just going by the numbers. That's just my impression. I think he just sounded quite wooden a lot of the time. He's a brilliant actor, don't get me wrong, but I think in this particular film, I just thought he was a bit annoyed with the script. He thought it wasn't that good. That's the kind of impression I got.
Claim this city for the glory of Rome.
I think Denzel Washington, he was the best, but I think he was just, again, a bad script. I think we talked about this last week. Ridley Scott be hit and miss with these films, and I think this was one case where it was a script that kind of let the film down a wee bit.
Yeah, agreed.
And as for the other characters, I forget, it was Tim McInerney's character, the main one. I mean, it's almost like Up Pompeii, that kind of effeminism. I was half expecting Frankie Howard to come out, the prologue.
Yeah.
And it was just, it got quite camp.
Yes.
Which itself was not a bad thing, but for a film like that, I don't think it's, I hate to say appropriate, but I don't think it's necessary. I think it has to be a sort of a masculine, tough film because there's a gladiator, they fight all the time. A lot of it was quite sort of carry on up Pompeii,
that carry on gladiating
mixed in with the life of Brian. Yeah, the overall feel of the film was just disappointing. It looked good, looked really, really good.
It did.
Always, Ridley Scott, but I just think it's just a letdown. It should have been a different story altogether.
Yeah, I agreed. Just to pick up on the look of the film. Yeah, I mean, it's as you would expect, it's shot brilliantly. And actually, one of the things which really stuck out to me compared to the first movie, obviously we're 24 years on, and it was an overhead shot of Rome where you could swear that was a real city there. And obviously, yes, it is CGI, but it just shows you how far the CGI has come on. Pedro Pascal, I actually really enjoyed in this movie. I think he brought a lot of empathy to his character.
General Acacius, there are victories yet still to come.
Rome has so many subjects. She must feed them.
And Denzel, I mean, the reviews I read before going to see it said he does steal the show, and he does steal the show. And again, you're talking about somebody with charisma. Denzel's got it in spades. And I think he was on, he was bringing something new. I liked how he fidgeted with his cuffs and all that, and what he was wearing all the time. Just all the little things he was doing to keep what he was doing interesting. That was the interesting part for me. He basically turns into the film's bad guy, because up until a certain point he's just from Proximo, and then that shifts. And you're like, oh no, we're going somewhere different with his character, the mentor type one. That was a bit of a surprise to me, and yeah, that was one of, I think, what made the final act that bit more interesting. And the original Gladiator had some stunning battle sequences, and you've mentioned already about how far fetched some of the action and combat in this. Yeah, I did watch it just thinking, what's going on? I think the monkeys, they're baboons, not monkeys. I was looking into this.
Aye, baboons, yeah.
Baboons, right? So basically, they put the gladiators into the arena, and they kind of wind up these baboons to be angry and hungry and to go and fight the gladiators. And it is not unkind of me to say the CGI of the baboons is horrific. It's like we're back 25 years. And if you remember the movie, Will Smith movie, a really good movie called I Am Legend, the zombies type figures in that was the level of CGI we're talking about. And I Am Legend, the CGI zombies are very poor. This was at that same level. I couldn't believe I was watching a 2024 movie. Those baboons were horrendous, weren't they?
Yeah, and again, I didn't see the point of them. Did they run out of actors to play rival gladiators, or couldn't afford the insurance money on a $300 million budget? I just thought it was unbelievable for a start.
Mm-hmm.
Where are you going to get baboons that size? I don't know how big they are, but I'm sure they're not monsters like them. Yeah, did they feed them on steroids or something like that? You know, it was just, yeah, it was ludicrous.
It was a stupid idea, and it was unbelievably poorly executed. So I remember what I was thinking. I was kind of like, oh, I'm checking out of this already because of what they're doing here. And then, yeah, you get to the Colosseum, and you've mentioned already they have a fight in the Colosseum where presumably it's seawater in there because there's sharks.
Well, that's the thing, yeah. Where did they store the sharks? First of all, how did they get them into the place? Where did they get them from?
Where did the seawater? How did they manage to transport all that seawater?
Exactly. I mean, they did have sea battles in the Colosseum, and that's real.
Yeah.
But to throw in Sharknado as well, it was, where did they get them in the first place? I don't recall sharks being in the Med, unless they actually found them in Australia or something like that. But yeah, that was just pointless again. They should have just kept the sharks out and not just had a sea battle. That'd have been fine.
Yeah, I was watching it, and you kind of get the CGI sharks, and I was just like, oh, come on.
Yeah.
And also, because obviously I wasn't all that engaged with the story going on, I was beforehand looking at the Colosseum thinking, how are they shoring that up to keep water in? Because lots of gates and such like there, and bars. I'm like, how did they stop the water from leaking? And when your audience is thinking about that, you've maybe got something going wrong there. But yeah, not anywhere near the same impact of the battles from the first movie.
No, definitely not. Absolutely not. It was just silly. That's the thing. Really, really silly.
Talking of silly, let's talk some of the plot points, because I walked out of it going, hold on a second. What's going on here? The first one, Paul, we have two emperors here, right? And I have to say, as characters, they were very silly, but I did enjoy them because they were very hateable.
The gods have spoken!
Very petulant, very spoiled characters, full of their own importance. But we get to the end of Gladiator, and Rome is going to be handed back to the people. And then all of a sudden, we are, X number of years down the line, and we have two emperors. And there's really no explanation, unless I missed something, as to how that happened.
I think the emperors are historically accurate. I'm not quite sure. So I think they actually did.
They are historically accurate, yeah.
But whether they were the petulant, high-pitched teenagers that they were in the film, I don't know. But I just thought they took it too far. Certainly, Commodus was a bit effeminate, but he was believable because he was tough, but he was weak and everything else. But these guys, it was beyond parody what they were like. The way they pounced around and shouted at each other in high-pitched voices. And, when you've been threatened by guys like that, you just think, shut up. Are you really an emperor? And to be in charge of one of the most successful empires ever, these two guys, I mean, seriously?
Remember the privileges we have granted her? Where is she now to ignore such an occasion?
There are victories yet still to come. Persia. India. Both must be conquered.
I mean, you couldn't really see them leading their troops into battle, could you? You couldn't even see them fighting other people. And it was just crazy.
And the thing is, we're comparing them to Commodus. Commodus has motivations to be the way that he is. I mean, and actually Aurelius says that to him, doesn't he? That your failings are as a son are my failings as a father. which again, another good line from the original movie. So we actually get to see his motivations and we get to see the kind of person that he is. Whereas these guys are just there. And I just don't get, for me, it just undid what Maximus did in the first movie, which was to get in a position where Rome is to be handed back to the people. And here we are over 20 years later. That didn't happen. And that's never explained. And we've now got these two emperors, and that's just never explained. It just is. And we just have to go with it. And that annoyed me. And the other bit that annoyed me was which is pretty cool, we jump back to the scene in Gladiator where Maximus's body is picked up from the Colosseum and is being taken away. And we then have a kind of new scene added to that, which has Lucilla taking Lucius and saying, "Oh, you're in danger. We'll need to send you away into hiding." And I'm thinking, but why? Why? Rome's going to be handed back to the people. There's going to be no more emperors. So, the bloodline, him, it's immaterial. He's not important really as such anymore. So why, one, are you sending him away? Two, why would you send him away on his own? You've got people that work for you. Would you not send him away with people that would protect him?
I think it's because he was part of the bloodline. And yeah, it was supposed to be handed back to the people, but what would have happened if he'd grown up and he wanted to take the empire back and become emperor again? But the people didn't want it. There could have been a civil war. And Rome being what it was like, they probably just wanted to kill him to prevent that in the future. So that's probably why he was taken away on his own.
Probably.
Again, there's like a reference to The Godfather Part 2. With the Don being chased, Don Corleone being chased by the local mafia and being spirited away. So it's the same idea, I suppose. He goes into exile for a while and then comes back.
Now you're saying suppose, and probably. Now again, I would say the storytelling has failed if we don't know that. We're speculating.
I don't think so. I think there's a bit at the start, a bit of writing at the start, gave a brief background to what was going on, and then it cut to him in Africa. So I think that was okay, because then you got the flashback to when they got sent away. But we know that Rome wasn't handed back to the people. It was still an empire. So I think that was clear from the two emperors bouncing around like
but why?
With their parents away.
But why? And that's never explained, and that annoys me. That's just pure storytelling for me. Because it undermines Maximus's death from the first movie. He's given up his life, and then suddenly, well, that failed, but we're not going to tell you why and how. And you've even got the likes of, obviously, Derek Jacobi's Gracchus turning up, and I'm thinking, right, you're the one pushing to give Rome back to the people. Didn't happen, but hey, you're still doing your thing. And that's another criticism of the movie. I think a lot of the returning characters, like of Gracchus and Lucille, are really sadly underutilized, and also they're just killed off like that without much fanfare, despite them being important legacy characters from the first movie. So I didn't. It's just like, yeah, they're dead. Okay, move on. Next scene.
Yeah, I think the whole film is just contrived with poor storytelling, as you say. Even the soundtrack was poor, not memorable at all, like the first film.
Yeah, and where's the quotable dialogue, Paul?
Exactly. I don't remember a single line that's worth quoting.
Other than Strength and Honor, but that's from the first movie.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, it was just...
Yeah, it's a disappointment. It's a disappointment.
I keep saying disappointing, but...
I know, but it is.
They got thesaurus out to use other words to describe how disappointing it was.
Yeah, it's a watch on Netflix movie for me. It's like, yeah, I wouldn't pay my money if you haven't seen it yet. I'd just watch it on Netflix without the same expectation we had and see what you think.
Yeah, exactly. I still think the money would have been better spent on a trilogy on Napoleon. Because there's a story that deserves telling properly, not the hatchet job they did with the film.
Now, Paul, there's another discussion that we'll need to have in maybe a future episode, because I actually really like Napoleon. I've still to watch the director's cut, which is on my list. So yeah, that could be a good little debate for us to have. But that's we'll maybe have that for another day. But to be impartial here, do you think Gladiator II has the potential to achieve the same level of cultural impact and critical acclaim as the first film, or is it more of a modern continuation for fans of the franchise?
It's just hit or miss. I think a lot of people love it. A lot of people think, yeah, and other people hate it, which means it won't have anywhere near the same impact as the first one did. Because I think the first one was more or less universally loved. Obviously, I get people who didn't like it, but I think the people who did like it or loved it far outweighs those who didn't, and that's the difference. I think Gladiator 2 is nowhere near it. I think if it was a standalone film, it might be okay, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe got better reviews, but when you're comparing it to the first one, it's like The Godfather Part 3. You compare it to the first two, mince. Well, it's not mince, but it's not very good. But if it's a standalone film, you think, oh, that's actually not too bad. That's the problem with sequels. You compare it to the first one. If the first one is successful, then you've got a hard job to live up to.
Mm-hmm.
Some franchises have done it successfully, like Star Wars, by and large. The Godfather, of course. The Bourne trilogy. Most of Star Trek. Some have been better than others, but I think overall they're very good films. But this one, yeah, as I said, I think if it had been a different story, then I think it'd been better. But because of a rehash, nah.
So, Paul, what would you rate it out of 5?
I'm going to say 2 because it looked good.
Okay, I'm going to go 3 because I really quite enjoyed the final act. And the first 2, again, treating it just as a movie, you went to see, it's okay. It's not bad. It's not terrible. It's watchable. But obviously it's just a pale shadow compared to the first one. But I thought the final act, yeah, was a bit different and entertaining. So yeah, I'll give it a 3 out of 5. Does it deserve to remain in the franchise, Paul?
Yeah, why not? I don't think it'd be a good franchise unless they do a third one. And if they do a third one, I'd be really interested to see what happens with it.
Nah.
Unless they come up with a brilliant story that just knocks your socks off, then I'm afraid, yeah. I would say to Ridley Scott, don't waste your time.
Don't see it. I just don't see it myself. For me, I would happily scrub this from history and just live with the original.
Yeah, I think it'd be the same as well. I just think the first one was just so good. You just don't want to ruin it with the second one.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, a one-off classic there. This one's not up to I just would erase it from history. But yeah, it sounds like they're going to make a third one. Will we be back for more?
Well, I think it's a long way from actually making it. I think he was just talking about it because he said he likes to do drawings. He does a lot of the artwork himself, and he's been sketching things for Gladiator 3. And he's what, 89 or something like that, Ridley Scott?
I have to say,
He's actually old.
Yeah, I mean, I do take my hat off to the guy. I think the age he's at now, and he is pretty much doing about one movie a year, which is a humongous, and he's doing big movies. For him to be able to still be doing that, you do take your hat off to the guy.
Right, so is it 89 or something like that?
Oh, he's well in his 80s, yeah. I don't know, 80 what,
89, yeah.
Mid-80s at least, but hats off to the guy. Absolutely amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So hats off to the guy for his career achievements and still making big budget movies. His time of life, maybe not hats off to him for this movie, but as ever, we treat movies like every day is Christmas Eve. You know, we hope for the best.
Yeah, definitely. It'll still make money anyway because people are going to see it.
It will. Purely based on the name, absolutely.
Like trimming the movie fat, why not check out our other podcast, Trimming the Musical Fat?
Okay, well, thanks for joining me again, Paul. Enjoyed chatting Gladiator 2.
Thank you.
And thanks to you all for listening. So please come back next week when we take a look at another movie series. What will that be, though? Well, you'll just have to wait and see. Until then, keep trimming.
Trimming the Movie Fat is a Stephen and Paul Nicholson production. We'd love to hear from you. Contact us by voicemail via the Spotify link in the episode description. You can email us at trimmingthemusicfat@gmail.com. Keep up to date with the show and access exclusive content by joining our Facebook group, subscribing to our YouTube channel, and following us on TikTok. You can also check out our website at trimmingthemusicalfat.com. Thanks for listening.